Alright, here we go. I'm CinematicCritic, fresh off from seeing The Jungle Book. The 2016 version. That is, of course. And I gotta say, I went in there and really wanted it to be good, and it was. Now, is it 11 in 11? Unfortunately not. I can't. It's really hard to get an 11 with me. And I will be more than happy to describe it to you why it doesn't get that 11 or even a 10. I think I'm probably going to rate this a 9, which for me is still a high rating. It's still definitely a recommend. So, I want to kick things off by talking about the actors. Neil Sethi, as Mowgli, pretty good acting job, I gotta say. Especially for a kid actor. He definitely... I would argue that this movie is better than the original. I know, there are gonna be those purists out there, but I would argue this is the original, better than the original, because we're in the modern era where the characters and the stories have to be super developed in order to be good. And that is what we have gotten. We got Bill Murray as Baloo. He sounds just like he did in Garfield. But which is, I guess, good because he's Bill Murray. We want to know. I recognized his voice. Let's put it that way. We got Ben Kingsley as Bagheera, and I gotta say, I always thought Bagheera was kind of a stickler in the original movie, but in this one, he's because the character arcs are more fleshed out, and because there's so much more detail that these actually, I can actually see why. I always knew that he was concerned for Mowgli, but this movie does a great job of showing it, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the plot, because when it all comes down to it, the plot is not the original plot that you learned from the Disney version of the Jungle Book from years ago. Now, in fairness, I have never read the book, the actual book, The Jungle Book, on which this is based, so I don't know if maybe the book was different from the Disney version and if this movie is more similar to the book, so give me a comment if you want about that. Idris Elba as Shere Khan. Let me tell you, one of my biggest problems with the original Jungle Book was Shere Khan. He was too easy to beat. Too easy of a villain. He wasn't really all that developed. I get it was just the way Disney was at that point in time, but I gotta say, seeing this Shere Khan, this is more like it, you know. Shere Khan doesn't like fire, but we're given a backstory as to why, and I'll get to that again when we get to the plot, and a little fire doesn't scare him off in the end. We actually get a big battle between him and Mowgli, as it should be. Some of the characters were messed up, and I'll get to that. Lupita, knowing I can't say that, I'm sorry. Raksha? I want to say that was the mother wolf. Speaking of the wolves in this were very good. They weren't just, hey, let's pawn Mowgli off and then let the rest of the story continue. And they were definitely more like supportive of Mowgli, trying to teach him how to be a wolf, basically, and keep him in the jungle. And we get this whole great opening that, again, it comes to plot. This movie is really plot driven, as great as the characters are. So I'll get to that in 1 second. There are just a couple more characters to mention. Kaa, played by Scarlett Johansson. At first I thought, oh, I don't know, a girl voicing Kaa. I mean, it really does come off as a snake, but when we get to the plot, we'll talk about why she's in here. And things go out of order, kind of, from the original Jungle Book, the way he meets the characters, but it's good, because there's actually a very important part when he meets Kaa earlier in the film. So, Akela, another wolf, he's like the leader of the pack until plot point, so... And last but not least, that I'm going to talk about, there are other ones, of course. There's one more I'll talk about after this. Christopher Walken as King Louie. Probably the only character that's worse than the original. I gotta say, King Louie was all fun-loving in the Disney version, and this one he's kind of like a mob boss. And I kid you not, see the movie. He's like a mob boss who offers him Mowgli protection, but he has to bring the red flower, which is of course fire. And everyone who's seen the original knows this story, but he, it was kind of scary. That was that presentation that this movie gave to that. And I just want to mention Brighton Rose as Gray, who's kind of like Mowgli's younger brother, who's a wolf and really likes Mowgli. So there really was a whole, and then there's a list of like MJ Anthony, Max Favreau, Chloe Hetcher, Esther Blankoff, and Knox Gagnon, who are wolves, young wolves 1 through 5, just numbered, but still important because all these wolves in this movie really do basically want Mowgli to stay in the jungle. And the signal that my screen just got brighter means it's time to move on to my 7. Interesting intro appropriate to the movie, huh? Now, I think I've already done a pretty good one. Like I said, you can't really compare this to the original because it doesn't quite have the same plot, and honestly, I do like this one better. If I had to rate the original, I would probably give it an 8, and I'd probably give this one a 9. So, yeah, 1 point. Not a huge difference. Now that said, let's get into this story at last. Remember, I will put on, tonight, it's my hood. Whenever I put the hood on, it means spoilers. Whenever the hood is off, it means no spoilers. I'll talk about non-spoilers first, then I'll put the hood on, talk about a spoiler section, then I will remove the hood to give a final summary. So here we go with the 7 main points of the plot, and now this will help you ultimately decide what this movie is going to be. So, number 1, the backstory that haunts the central character. And it's kind of the setup. Well, there's not really something that haunts Mowgli at the start. We get this brilliant opening where there's like a peace rock where all hunting is stopped for 1 day. And everyone goes and gathers at the peace rock. Every beast, you've got the elephant. I don't think the elephants show up there actually, but you got the wolves. You've got the panther, of course, Bagheera. You've got the antelopes. I think it was any animal you can think of is showing up there, including Shere Khan. So Shere Khan is there too, and since there's a truce on that 1 day that they cannot do any damage, Shere Khan, he still doesn't fully agree with this since he sees Mowgli there and is a man cub, and he's like, we can't have a man cub here. Do you remember what a man cub did to me? And I was like, okay, what did a man cub do to you? Or what did a man do to you? Because I don't remember all too much. I remember him being scared of fire, but in this movie, Shere Khan literally has a burn. Could have had something like that in the original movie, but I don't recall that. Give me 1 second. Anyway. Lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. There is a burn. I don't believe that in the original movie there was a burn, but he was burned by a human, and that's why this is very important because red flower, aka fire, wasn't all too important in the first movie. I know it ultimately defeated Shere Khan, but it really didn't play a big part. And it plays a bigger part in this movie, and we'll get to that later in the spoiler section as to why. So number 2 is the catalyst that gets the character moving. It's part of the story's setup. And that would, of course, be Shere Khan's threat that he will kill the man cub if the man cub isn't, like, brought to the man village, and that's what everyone assumes. But the inciting incident is ultimately that even though Mowgli is brought back to the man village, and like he gets close to the man village, like he's almost there. So I was like, yeah, that was over pretty fast. And our main Akela, the current alpha wolf, Shere Khan comes to him and says, "Where's the man cub? I want to kill him," basically. And Akela's like, "He's no longer your concern. He's been taken to the man village." And Shere Khan's like, "That's not what I wanted. I wanted him dead." And this isn't really a spoiler because it's still part of the setup, but Akela is killed by Shere Khan. And this news gets spread. And of course, Mowgli is going to find out about it. That goes without saying. But that doesn't happen for till a little bit. So number 3, the big event that changes the character's life. For me, I like to skip a little a little further in the movie. So now by this point in time, we've been introduced to Baloo. And he's using at first he's using Mowgli to get honey to like hibernate, but since he's in the jungle, the bears don't actually hibernate, something that Bagheera brings up later when he finds them. But the whole idea is he's actually impressed with Mowgli, and he tells Mowgli, he's a human, or a man cub. He's got to act like a man cub. He doesn't have to act like a wolf. And the one thing I like about this movie that definitely did the Mowgli character better is at first Mowgli is unwilling to change. At first, he's willing to go to the man village to protect the wolves. At second, he's like, maybe I could protect myself and everyone by using my skills, by using my tricks, as they're called in this. And number 3, yeah, I mean, with him as a developing character, giving him kind of a story arc, showing that he can use his tricks, as they are called, to actual good use. Something that ultimately ends we'll say it ends the first. It was a pretty long Act 1, but I think that in a movie like this, I'll give that a pass. So the midpoint would probably be, the first part of the midpoint, the non-spoiler section, would be when he saves one of the elephants. And of course, these elephants, they don't speak in this movie, the elephants. But they are revered because they are the ones who make the paths that the water travels. They make the rivers. They stomp down the trees, and everyone must respect them for it. And there's this moment toward the middle of the movie where the young elephant is trapped in some type of hole, and Mowgli is able to use some sort of rope and pull him out. And from that point on, it's like, that's like his ultimate realization. Wait a minute. I can use my knowledge, I can use my experience that I've learned. I can use the fact that I am a man cub. I can use it for all of this. So how does he use it? This comes off, and I'm gonna, when this comes off, I'll be done with spoilers. But now, spoiler warning. So, first of all, the way that the movie continues actually was let's put it this way. I liked the second half better than the first half. Now, I wasn't sure really what was going to happen on the whole wolf front. I knew there was probably a chance that he was. I knew that 90% chance he was going to find out about Akela being killed. And we'll get to that. But first, there is the whole King Louis thing, though. One downside of the movie. Ultimately, he's taken away. Ultimately, one thing that wasn't really addressed is that moment where Baloo says you should go back to the village. Instead of that, they have him basically, he's become friends with Mowgli, and they have him basically say, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. No, he really just comes out and says it. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Bagheera's right, I was just using you. When in actuality, yeah, and when in actuality, he wasn't just using him, he actually liked him. But they never really addressed that after that. But anyway, moving on to King Louie. Yes, he is kidnapped by King Louie like in the original. Yes, King Louie wants the power of man's red flower, aka fire, and he offers Mowgli protection in return so that he can continue to live in the jungle. But, it was fine when Baloo sang a little bit of the bare necessities, but when I couldn't, I don't know, King Louie in this film, when he tried to scat sing, I want to be like you, I couldn't get into it. I couldn't. There was no rhythm either. There was no background instruments. It was just him singing, and it didn't work. Should have just left that out. Bare necessity is fine, but that one, a little bit unnecessary. Anyway, but what I will say is the rescue, in this one, the rescue is Baloo goes like straight in and is a distraction while Bagheera tries to get him out. And then there's like this great escape scene, much better than the original, because it goes on for like 10 minutes. We've got an actual action sequences where the temple that they're in starts coming down, crumbling to pieces, and ultimately at the end of the chase ends up tumbling down onto King Louie, and King Louie is actually threatening in this movie. Like, he's an actual threat. Like, he's to him, he's like, come out, man cub, and he there's this actually one jump scare part where Mowgli's hiding, and he's like, Mowgli's basically, he doesn't say it, he thinks, I think he's gone. Turns around, boom, there's King Louie right in front of him, and I gotta admit, as a jump scare, it actually got me. Especially since, a little technical thing here, King Louie walked that way, so why does he jump, why does he pop out of this direction? But that's a small nitpick. The most important thing that happens in this, though, is he ultimately finds out from King Louie, who has heard, he reveals to Mowgli that Akela has died, been killed by Shere Khan. And Mowgli was like, I don't believe you, but of course, we got that classic setup where once he's defeated, he asks Bagheera, is it true? And Bagheera's like, we were going to tell you. No, you weren't. But then this is a good thing for me. I was thinking, yes, maybe there's yet a point where I'm going to be honest, I was hoping that Mowgli would stay in the jungle, and of course he does. Whereas the original, he goes to the man village in the end. Like, again, the book, I'm not sure what the end result was. Didn't read that book. But he does go to the man village temporarily. Why? Well, why else? To get the red flower. To get fire. So he could defeat Shere Khan once and for all. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the genius of the red flower actually comes in. This is where it's most modernized for us. Not for the movie, not like, and I'll talk about special effects when I take this back off. But what ends up happening is, let me make sure I didn't miss something here. Number 5, the crisis is the low point, or the event that forces the key decision that leads to the story's end. That would probably be when he finds out that Akela has died. I'm going to rewarn that there are major spoilers, and we got 2 more plot points to go. Number 6, the climax is the showdown, the final face-off between your central character and the opposition, in this case, Shere Khan. So what does he do? He goes back to that watering hole where everyone has gathered, and he's got the fire, and he's going to use it to defeat Shere Khan. And Shere Khan points something very interesting out. Everybody turns around. All the animals are scared of the fire. Not just Shere Khan, all the animals are scared of the fire, the wolves included. The wolves who raised him, he holds the fire up to the wolves who raised him, and they back away. And why is this? Camera turns around. Mowgli just set a whole section of the jungle on fire by accident, but that is the power of fire. Something never shown in the Disney is that, yes, this fire does have, you know, it can be bad, very bad. And that was pretty much the point of the movie where I was like, yes, this is truly modernized. This is not only doing the original, but this is still taking a stab at today's world, saying, you know, we are still a issue. So that genius, as well as it's hidden, is there. And then, of course, he ends up using it on Shere Khan. Wrong. This kind of shocked me. He ends up throwing the fire, his torch, into the water, and he's not going to use the fire to defeat Shere Khan. So, how does he defeat Shere Khan? He's basically just shown all the animals, no, I am not a man cub. Or if I am, I'm going to do things my way. I'm not going to be like the other men. I am going to, and he says this whole thing about, I'm a wolf, or I'm with the wolves, or something like that. And then ultimately all the animals come together to help him out. They basically start by delaying Shere Khan, holding him back so Mowgli can escape into the now burning jungle, the section of the burning jungle. So Shere Khan's scared of fire, right? Nope. This is modernized. He's a villain who's complicated. He may have been burned by fire once by Mowgli's father. Something we see in a flashback. I forgot to mention earlier. Not a huge important thing, but there's basically a section where Kaa shows Mowgli the past, and like he was a little kid, and his father fought off Shere Khan with a torch, and Shere Khan didn't realize that Mowgli was there. And so Mowgli was rescued by Bagheera. The reason I didn't bring that up in the non-spoiler section was because it's actually not hugely important, because Mowgli doesn't remember it. The important part is when Shere Khan mentions it to him having forgot it, I guess, because he was under Kaa's spell at that point. Him mentioning, I killed your father, seems to be the one that sets Mowgli off, basically, and leads to this fight where he doesn't use fire, he uses the tricks. And yes, Shere Khan chases him into the fire because Shere Khan's not scared of fire. So there's that. I said I was going to rate this a 9, but the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think that the 10 is deserved. I don't know, maybe I will. So the final plot point before I summarize. The realization occurs when your character and or the audience sees that the character has changed or has realized something. Alright. Sum it up with this. Of course, he ends up defeating Shere Khan, he has to, and the way it's done is brilliant. Shere Khan basically goes on a branch, and he dies. He doesn't just run off in the distance like he would, like, from being scared of the fire like he does in the Disney version. No. He falls off a tree into the fire, and the fire, this may have been a little much, but the fire goes up. He literally goes up in flames because the fires grow taller as he falls into them, as Shere Khan falls into them. And Mowgli has a swing because he's been using his tricks too to defeat Shere Khan, and he has actually made a swing that he's able to save on. And the way that this movie ends is the elephants come and they make the rivers, and the rivers stop the fire, they wash it away, and Mowgli ends up staying with the wolves. Thank you. I was hoping that would happen. I was hoping that he wouldn't go back to the man village. I was hoping that he would be. I don't know. I gotta think. I like stories like that where they become something different. I mean, a lot of my stories, in fact, every single one of my 3 stories that I want to make, including the ones that I'm still including the main one I'm making into a movie, the television show idea, and the other one, they're all about humans who be something else. And in this case, that's Mowgli. He ultimately ends up realizing that, he can still live with the wolves, he can still be with the wolves, and yet he can still be himself too. Whereas he was originally told, I think I could say this on that. So spoilers off. He was originally told throughout this whole movie that he has to follow the way of the wolf. He has to follow their rules, do it their way. Whereas in the end, he's able to use his own way to do things, and it comes up to that, where he's able to utilize his own unique tricks in a good way. I'm trying to think of a word other than tricks to describe it, but really, they are tricks. I mean, if you think about it, tricks aren't necessarily always bad. Sometimes they can be fun, sometimes they can be useful. And in this case, it really was useful. So, a summary. I do have one thing to talk about and why I will ultimately get into this. Yes, I'm going to up it. I'm going to give it a 10. It deserves it. Really, it does. If it didn't ruin the original Jungle Book Disney that I grew up with. In fact, I would argue that this one would be better. Again, purists, don't hate me for that. But the fact is, I look at this as cinematic. I look at this cinematically, and yes, I think that this one was better. By story and by characters. Even not by nostalgia. The one knock that I have on it is, like I said, that section with King Louie. For those people who shut off on the spoilers, there was like a section with Ka, where like showed Mowgli's background. Like that was a plus, a very big plus. And let's just say there were more pluses than minuses. So basically, if I'm giving this a 10 out of 11, basically for every negative, there were 10 positives. From the ending to the middle to the characters, the story, and what's that one negative that I have? I'm going to try to end this on 30 minutes. I realize this has been a longer one, but I have had a lot to say about this, and I actually think this has been a good review. The one negative that I think the biggest issue is technical. I know, I'm CinematicCritic. I'm supposed to really focus on the story and the characters, but I gotta say, as great as the CGI is, you can tell it's CGI. The animals, whether it's Baloo the bear or Shere Khan or Bagheera or the wolves. The wolves. Sorry, they're the fakest looking. The wolves are the fakest looking. I would say Shere Khan is the most real looking. Well, I got less than a minute to finish this up because I want to make it half an hour. So what can I say in closing about the Jungle Book? Well, it's definitely more adult, but still safe for kids. Let me just put that ease there. 3D. Don't see it if you don't have to see it in 3D. The 3D wasn't that great. There wasn't really any jump out stuff, which you'd think there would be. Here or there, but that's it. Personal opinion? Yeah, I loved it. Wasn't some spoiler free, and I think that pretty much covers it, ladies and gentlemen. that's the end of the review. Let me say a couple things first. First of all, in a couple days, it may take a week or two, CinematicCritic.com is going to relaunch. My ad campaign is going strong. I am looking forward to having many more viewers, both on my Facebook page, Cinematic Critic Movie Reviews, on my website, CinematicCritic.com, when it launches in a week or two, and on my YouTube profile, of course, Cinematic Critic. I'm back into it for the summer, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first of many reviews over the summer, and I'm just gonna get better and better and better with the reviews now that I have my 7 plot structure and the characters and the personal. I realize the reviews are 30 minutes, are 20 to 30 minutes long, like this one, and that's because I got to say, and it really does help you make an educated decision. But that's something for an update video or something like that. Go see one of my update videos and want to hear about that. I'm not going to speak too much more about that. I'm not going to speak about that at all anymore, because this was mainly about the Jungle Book. And I just got to say, I saw on IMDb.com Jungle Book 2018. Are we getting a sequel? Think about that. A sequel. Okay. Well, The Jungle Book 2 was a Disney sequel, based on the Disney movie, the animated one, where Mowgli actually went back to the jungle after going to the Man Village and was chased by her girlfriend. And in that one, Shere Khan, of course, was back because he didn't die in the first one. And I forget the second one because the second one wasn't that memorable. So I hope that if they do a sequel to this, how are they going to do a sequel with Shere Khan dead? Maybe he didn't die. Maybe he somehow survived. Oh my god. I mean, we saw him go up in a big ball of flames. I don't know. Maybe this isn't a sequel. Maybe it's a total other movie. It just says Jungle Book 2018. Well, so final rating, ladies and gentlemen, 10 out of 11. If you haven't done so, please subscribe on Cinematic Critic, the YouTube profile. Check out my website when it launches in a week or two, CinematicCritic.com. It's going to have all these videos on it and more. And I will see you next week when I review. I don't have it on the top of my head right now, but I know I have a review next week, and I look forward to talking to you then. Alright, and that's 33 minutes for you. For my YouTube, that is done. I'm done with the Facebook profile, the Cinematic Critic Review live review, and I will add to you guys to this video really quickly. I do Facebook Live reviews. That's what I was just doing and while I was talking to you guys. That's why I was sometimes looking down here, because I do Facebook Live reviews. And what that means is, at the same time I'm recording this video right here to be uploaded to YouTube the same night, or sometimes it might not be till the next day, honestly. It might be a few days even sometimes. I mean, when I get my viewership up, it'll be same night. Promise. I promise. But you want to see it right away? You want to see it right after I see the movie? Facebook Live is where to do it. So please, for all you YouTube viewers, go find I'm going to see if I can get it. The Cinematic Critic Movie Reviews Facebook profile page. I do Facebook Live reviews. I do posts about when it's going to be. And now that I've disconnected from this, I should be able to tell you, my YouTube viewers, what next week's review is going to be. Next week's review, upcoming, it's going to be The Huntsman Winter's War. Now, I know that there have been a lot of movies that I have missed, mainly because, they were all getting panned, and they were all getting panned. Oh, this one just went down from 20 to 7. Ouch. They were all getting panned, and I ultimately didn't think it was worth it. But I'm back to weekly reviews now, and that is the one that I am looking for next week. The Huntsman Winter's War. So even though it's got a 17% Rotten Tomatoes right now, hey, it's been a while since I reviewed a bad movie, so maybe I should go. And again, maybe my opinion will be different. And I'll still be able to tell you. So that's next week, April 29th, Ratchet and Clank. Yeah, I know. I've never played the video game, fair warning. And Captain America Civil War, I have to watch the second Captain America, but I will go see that. Because I'm a Marvel guy. Angry Birds movie. And Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising on May 20th. You can Alice the Looking Glass on May 27th. For all the rest of them that are going to be up through September, you can check out the one I profiled. And I'm going to call it for the night, ladies and gentlemen. This is CinematicCritic signing off. Please tell everyone about these videos, and I will see you next week. And next week, I'll try to keep it to 20 or 25 minutes.